Here's what nobody tells you. Two people could walk the same amount of time at the same pace. One will lose fat while the other doesn't. Truth is, there are mistakes baked into the way that most people walk that all but guarantee failure, and in some cases, they even make you gain weight, including wearing this thing wrong. Almost everyone does it. Weighted vests. If you've been walking without seeing results, rest assured it's not your fault. And if you've been walking with one of these, you're going to want to pay attention. I'm going to reveal what these mistakes are, including the one that causes everyone to plateau, and how to finally turn your daily walk into a fat-burning machine. All backed by research that most people have never even seen. All right, mistake number 5, not walking enough. Now, you can even walk every single day and still never lose an ounce of fat. That's what the research shows. And the reason is because most people don't walk long enough, fast enough, or frequent enough to ever reach the fat-burning zone. When it comes to speed, most people miss this window in 2 different ways. They either stroll too slowly to burn the meaningful calories, or they push too hard and they shift their body into more of a sugar burning or into a cortisol state instead of fat burning. Now, here's the surprising truth. Walking a touch more slowly than a really fast pace can actually burn more fat. That's because at a slower pace, your body taps into fat stores instead of sugar for energy. However, you don't want to be walking too slow either, right? Let's find that sweet spot. So the research shows that the sweet spot is right in the middle, moderate intensity, about 50 to 75% of your max heart rate, 3 to 3.5 miles an hour, or an easy way to gauge it, if you can talk in full sentences while you're walking, but you struggle to sing, which I can't either way. If you can sing while you're walking, then you're going too slow. If you can't sing, then you're going at the right pace, but you still want to be able to talk in full sentences. Your breathing is also noticeably heavier, but it can be sustained for a full hour. That's the zone, right where every step is working with your body to burn off the fat. Now, let's talk about the duration. Science shows that 40 minutes just doesn't cut it if your goal is actual fat loss. A 40-minute walk is fantastic, don't get me wrong. But one study compared 2 groups of women. Both walked briskly 5 days per week. The 40-minute walkers lost some weight, 3 pounds in 12 weeks, but no real change in their body fat percentage or that visceral fat. Meanwhile, the 60-minute walkers lost almost 7 pounds, trimmed over 1.5 inches off of their waist, and then significantly reduced visceral belly fat, the fat that gets in there around the organs. Same frequency, same pace, the only difference was the extra 20 minutes. So that extra time unlocks some serious fat loss. Finally, speaking of frequency, it matters a lot as well. The proven threshold in research is 5 days per week. If you're walking 60 minutes 5 days a week, that's around 300 minutes weekly. It's actually more than the standard 250-minute recommendation most experts will give for long-term fat loss. So think of 250 minutes as the baseline and 300 minutes as the fat burning upgrade. This is if you're trying to lose fat and you want to use walking to do it 5 days a week at 60 minutes. Now, there's one more thing that you need to know here. Well, you want to make sure that you're walking at least 250 minutes per week. Studies show that tracking time can backfire on you a little bit. That's why counting steps or having a distance goal can work far better. I'm going to explain more on that in just a moment for you. So what does the optimal fat loss walking formula look like? Research is clear. Walk at least 5 days a week. This is the threshold for consistent fat loss. Go for 60 minutes. 40 is good, but 60 will maximize the visceral and waistline fat loss, and then keep it moderately intense. That means you can noticeably breathe harder, you can speak, but not sing. And then keep track of your distance or your steps rather than only time. We're going to talk more of that in a second. This is how you stop walking for exercise and actually start walking for fat loss. So mistake number 4. Next, I'm going to share the number 1 reason why walking doesn't lead to fat loss for most people. But before I do, if you find this valuable, please take a second to like this video. That small action right there helps a lot more people discover this information so that they can finally start seeing results too. All right, the number 1 reason walking doesn't lead to fat loss is simply because people eat too much afterwards. And yet the irony is that walking itself doesn't actually make you hungrier. Unlike high-intensity workouts, walking doesn't spike your hunger hormone ghrelin, which means you shouldn't be eating more at your next meal. However, despite that, studies show that as much as 30 to 50% of people compensate by eating extra calories after walking, often without realizing. Studies show that this happens for 4 common reasons. One is the idea that you deserve a reward for the effort. If they think, I worked out, so I deserve a treat, and then they experience reduced self-control. This is from the fatigue after walking that makes it harder to resist tempting foods. And then you experience a need to consume. And people believe the body needs extra calories to refuel, even though that's not the case after moderate walking. or they see it as a permission to consume. They think exercise creates a caloric buffer and then allows them to indulge in snacks or larger servings. Another big factor is simple math error. People often overestimate how many calories that they actually burned. If you are a calorie counter, sometimes as much as 30 to 70% you could be off. And even if you use a device that tracks calories, they're often highly unreliable. Stanford research found that wrist-worn devices can actually be off by as much as 40 to 80% when estimating calories burned. So here's what that looks like in real life. Someone walks briskly for 45 minutes, thinks they burned 320 calories, but in reality, they only burned 200 calories, and then they reward themselves with a muffin or a latte that adds up to 450 calories. So instead of ending the day with a 200 calorie deficit, they actually created a 250 calorie surplus in the wrong direction. The solution is not to avoid food, but to protect the deficit that your walk created. And the best way to do that is by targeting the exact traps that cause people to overeat. If you're the type of person who thinks you deserve a reward for your effort, then instead of food rewards, give yourself a non-food treat, such as like hot shower, hot bath, watching an episode of your favorite show, or enjoying some quiet downtime, playing a game, something that you like that will reward yourself. If you often experience reduced self-control after you do a walk or exercise, don't put yourself in a position where fatigue makes the food choices for you. Plan your meal or your snack before you walk so you're not deciding while you're tired or while you're hungry and standing in front of the cabinet or the fridge. And if you tend to feel like your body needs to consume more after walking, remember that even a long walk only burns several hundred calories, and your body has thousands of calories of stored energy to cover it. So you don't need a refuel snack. A lot of us already have a lot of fuel hanging off of us. So no matter how much it feels like you do, you don't actually need that. And if you feel like exercise gives you permission to consume, track both your food and your walking. That way you don't fall into the mental trap of giving yourself a calorie credit when you didn't actually earn one. Finally, mindset matters. Research shows that people who walk because they feel like they should are more likely to snack, while people who walk because they enjoy it are less likely to fall into that trap. So lower your risk of undoing your progress by making your walks something that you actually look forward to. Listen to your favorite show, walk with a friend or a spouse or a loved one. I walk with Nurse Livingood. I like that. We have good conversations. Set up a mini challenge. Gamify the process. Bottom line is walking doesn't drive you to overeat, but your brain might trick you into it. So if you don't protect the deficit that you work for, even the best walking plan won't move the scale. Mistake 3, doing the exact same walk day after day is one of the fastest ways to hit a fat loss plateau. At first, the pounds can come off easily, but within the first 6 to 12 weeks, progress starts to slow and stagnant or even stops. Not because you're slacking off, but because your body's adapted. Scientists call this adaptive thermogenesis. It means that your metabolism burns fewer calories both at rest and during activity, making the same walk less effective over time. One large study found that after women lost about 16% of their body weight, which is awesome by the way, their resting metabolic rate slowed by around 46 calories a day. Immediately after dieting, that slowdown can be closer to 120 calories a day. And some individuals even experience droughts as high as 700 calories a day. So to put that in perspective, if your metabolism slows down by 100 calories per day and your goal is to lose 20 pounds, it's going to take you 4 to 5 weeks longer to reach the goal. If your goal is 50 pounds, it could take as much as 3 months longer. And if your goal is to try to lose 100 pounds, the slowdown in your metabolism could add up as much as a half a year to your journey. So how do you break through the adaptive thermogenesis plateau? The key is to change the stimulus. If your walks are always the same length, try adding an extra half mile to a mile per session. If you only walk 3 days a week, increase to 4 or 5. Remember, 5 miles, 5 days a week is the proven threshold for significant loss. So you should be aiming for around that mark if you really want to tap into fat loss. If your pace is always steady, try interval walking, which has been scientifically proven to burn more fat. This simply means mixing bursts of faster walking with periods of slower recovery walking. For example, walk briskly for 3 minutes at about 65 to 80% of your max effort, where you're breathing heavy and would struggle to hold a conversation, then slow down for 2 minutes at an easy, slow pace to recover. And then repeat that cycle 5 to 8 times during your walk. If you plateau and the terrain you walk on is always flat, try to find a terrain to add some hills or vary the route to force new muscle recruitment. And if you've been walking without adding any weight, introduce rucking, which is walking with a weighted vest or a backpack. Not only does it significantly increase the amount of calories that you burn while walking, it also builds strength in your legs and in your core. We'll talk more about rucking in just a moment. Basically, if you hit a plateau, you can think of it like lifting weights. If you never increase the weight or change the reps, your progress stalls. So to keep losing fat, you have to keep raising the bar and challenging yourself. Mistake number 2, not tracking your progress is almost a guarantee that you'll fail. Massive review, 20 studies found that without self-monitoring, behavior change rarely ever sticks. But with tracking, success jumps nearly 90%. 9 out of 10 walkers who tracked and set goals actually stuck with it, while almost everyone who didn't slipped back. Here's the key. It's not just the act of wearing a device. Tracking alone doesn't guarantee progress. The difference comes down to also having clear, specific goals. Give yourself a target. A Stanford review found that pedometer users walked an average of 2,000 extra steps per day, lost weight, and even lowered their blood pressure, but only when their devices were paired with step goals. The goal itself was what made the difference. So what kind of goal works best? For fat loss, research consistently points to steps and distance goals. So we've already talked about the ideal distance goal of 5 miles, 5 times per week. That's going to get you right in that 1 hour range that we started with mistake number 5. If you want to set a step goal, then 10,000 steps a day is about the sweet spot that most studies linked with sustained fat loss. You don't have to be perfect. Even 7,500 steps a day has still been shown to trigger weight loss, but fewer than 5,000 steps is actually linked with weight gain. So don't let yourself fall behind that line. And to put this in perspective, a mile works out to be about 2,000 to 2,500 steps. So if you want to use distance as one of your guides, then hitting 5 miles 5 days per week will usually land you right around 10,000 steps per day. Now, what type of goals don't work? Like we already discussed, time-based goals don't work as well. It gives you a target that you should be walking around an hour, and that means you'll equate to around 10,000 steps and around 5 miles. But oftentimes people end up overestimating how much exercise that they're really doing. Research also shows that vague goals like I'll walk more don't actually work. You need to have a more specific measurable goal. That's where steps are very beneficial. I will walk 10,000 steps 5 days per week. The specific nature of the goal actually increases your chance of success by over 40%. So get to walking, get to tracking, give yourself a target. Mistake number 1. Many people have never even heard of rucking, but these weighted vests are all over the place now, and it might be the simplest fat loss upgrade that you can make to your walking. Just by strapping on a weighted vest, every step you take suddenly works harder for you. Same amount of steps, way better results. Research shows that you can burn an extra 2 to 3 calories per hour for every pound that you carry. So you add up to 20 pounds, you're burning 40 to 60 more calories per hour without walking a single extra minute. That's enough to avoid the fat loss plateaus that we discussed earlier. Not only that, in older adults, wearing just 10% of their body weight in a vest format doubled or even tripled their strength gains. So rucking not only burns more fat, it also helps keep you strong as you age. But you can't just throw some books into a backpack and start walking. There are some common mistakes you should know about before you get started, including the number 1 most common mistake I'm seeing people doing right now, wearing one of these. Now, one of the first mistakes is starting too heavy too soon. Men are especially guilty of this. That'll hero load. I'm just going to throw on 40 pounds and they're in boot camp, right? The military has decades of data showing that this leads straight to injury or burnout. So even trained runners fatigue quickly at just 10% of their body weight with extra weight on, which means they actually burn fewer calories overall because they're so slowed down by too heavy a weight. So the smarter move is to start at just 5% of your body weight. And then you could work your way up a little bit. Even that small load burns an extra 10 to 20 extra calories per hour, starts to add up. The second mistake is going too light to see results. Women are more likely to undershoot here. If you're comfortable, don't be shy about eventually working your way up to 10% of your body weight. Some people may even push to 15%, but I think getting to 10 is a really good goal. That's the level that research shows consistently builds muscle and then multiplies those fat loss benefits as long as it's not significantly slowing you down on your walk. And the third mistake under the number 1 mistake category is carrying the weight in the wrong place. A backpack will make you burn more calories, but it will also pull you forward and destroy your posture. Not to mention that the lower the weight sits on your back, the more you're forced to hunch forward to compensate. Simple spinal biomechanics, which I spent 10 years in a clinic focusing as one of my jobs on biomechanics of the spine, helping people to correct their posture, and we used weights to do it. One of the main things we did to restore the hunched posture that people had, the forward head posture, where your head is out here, and that roundedness that starts to form in the spine, is we would put a weight around the person's neck, which is a counterweight. Your body will move away from the way that a weight is put on. So if you put one on the front of the head, it pulls forward head posture out. If you put it on the chest, it pulls the rounded shoulders back. The mistake I am seeing almost every weighted vest and rucker do is they are wearing this heavy weight on the back. And so I actually wear the weighted vest backwards, because if the weight is on my back, it is forcing me to do this. And I constantly drive by as a doctor and stare at weight vest wearers as they go trucking by with this posture. You are crushing your posture over time. That leads to degradation of the spine, and it just looks bad. And so this vest, for example, actually has adjustable weights. And so I took weights out of the front of the vest, so it is lighter. There are some that are still built into the straps, so there's a little bit of weight, and I flipped it around and I literally wear it backwards. Now, there are going to be a lot of vests that you can't, because they have just straps in the front and all the weight is like a backpack from behind. I do not recommend those vests. With this, I am able to switch the weights to this pouch, which then sits on my chest, which then gives me upright posture, because there is 3 times more weight on the front of my vest than on the back. I wear around 15 pounds of weight at this time of filming this video, and so a majority of it, 10 pounds of it, is on the front, 5 pounds sits around my upper shoulders. This counteracts, and I have more upright posture, and I don't cause bad posture over time. Wearing a weighted vest the wrong way is a fast way to stress your joints, your knees, your posture, your neck, your shoulders. We still want weight on a little bit on both sides, the majority of it on the front. It can inhibit your breathing a little bit, because your chest can't expand as much. So just keep aware of that in case you do have breathing problems. So if you're trying to do a makeshift setup where you're just wearing a backpack, it's going to be difficult to wear it on the front. The weighted vest is going to balance it out for you more, keeping the load high and then keeping it balanced across your torso, keeping more weight on the front. Wear it backwards if you have to. It doesn't look ridiculous or anything. I just put it on in a backwards manner. So this efficiency is what lets you walk longer, recover faster, keep your posture in good check, and keep going week after week, and don't cause injury over time. If you shop around, you should be able to get one online for as little as $40-50, depending on how much weight you need. I don't make these, but the one that I'm wearing right now, I'll put a link to below. I have no affiliation with them or anything. It was just one that I found that I could turn around backwards. It gets a touch tricky just to reach the straps. Might have to have someone help you to strap it in, or we've kind of gotten accustomed to strapping it. But I'll put it in the link below, but it allows me to put a bit more weight in the front as opposed to behind, so it is very posture friendly. Now, if you want to discover some of the best ways to lose fat walking, then don't miss my other video. In it, I will walk you through 8 powerful walking hacks that flip your body into fat burning mode without adding extra time or effort. You'll see just how a 2-minute walk after eating can lower your blood sugar by up to 30%, how the right kind of interval walking keeps fat burning for up to 48 hours after a workout, and even how a simple incline can double your calorie burn while protecting your knees. These are quick, these are easy upgrades anyone can do, and when you stack them together, the results come fast. I'll include a link to that here. Click to watch it next, and I'll see you over there.